We are live. Welcome to the Random Party Generator. I almost said talking crit out of habit. Holy shit.
Well, yeah.
What can I say? What can I say? Welcome here to the Random Party Generator. I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. With me, as always, every other Friday. I don't think Rob has missed a session yet. Is Rob Conley, Mr. Bat in the attic himself. And below us, only because he was the third person to log in, is Tim Shorts. This is your panel.
Bare minimum, huh?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a PBS show. This is your panel.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So, uh, and Mr. Gunn is in the house.
He's the first one.
There we go. We
around.
should change it to Meet the OSR. You know, like Meet the Press, Meet the
Oh
OSR.
yeah, was that the one where it was? Oh no, that's right. Meet the Press was a PBS.
It's a Sunday show.
Which was the one with like you're wrong?
Oh, Mick.
Point,
Mick-
counterpoint. I thought Crossfire.
No,
No.
Mick.
McClunsky. I don't know.
You can
McLaughlin.
keep
McLaughlin.
saying
McLaughlin.
McLaughlin. Oh, okay.
Rob, tell me about the OSR. You're wrong. It goes on like that.
Well, actually, we do have something important to talk about because tomorrow is what
Yes.
anniversary? The 50th anniversary of OD&D, and this is not the reprint. I kept the box, the best part of the reprint.
Where's your gun?
Yes, got people you can mark off reach around on your bingo cards.
We don't have reach around in the bingo cards. Damn it.
Yeah, we don't want to add that. That's
Okay.
involved. So are those the original ones, Rob, or the reprints?
No,
These are the original
Those are
ones.
originals.
Original ones.
Uh,
Oh,
They're,
yeah, 'cause the
they're
reprints are
seventh
white,
printing
right?
though. They're seventh printing, but
Mhm.
they are from their back in the day. I bought these, Tim, in State
Mhm.
Street Lobby.
Oh, did you? Oh, wow. So you got them.
Yeah.
So they were new when you bought them.
Mm-hmm.
You are the original owner.
Yep,
Yeah.
I am the original over. Lost the box.
I never had the urge to buy those. Just I don't know. Just I guess because I think it would be more of a nostalgia thing than a useful thing. Although I still tend to buy things that I know I'm not going to use. But maybe that's because now if I tried to buy them, I'd need to take a mortgage out or something.
Well,
This is true.
I have two copies of the original collector's edition. Only
Oh,
because
there
I
you go.
found one unbelievably cheap at like $80 on eBay like 6 years ago, when you could still find them at like
Yeah.
prices under 100. I'm like, oh, I just need another copy. At that
So-
price, I'll get it.
So I donated the reprints to Purple Fox here in Meadville for one of their charity raffles.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that was pretty nice of you.
Yeah, I kept the box
cool.
though. I mean, but I
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that reprint box, by the way, which was from 10 years ago, right? The 40th anniversary.
I was going to say it was like 10 years. wasn't it?
That goes
And
for like I think $400 or $500 now on eBay.
Yeah.
It-
yeah.
so
Joke.
I think at one time, Tim, I convinced you guys to give this a try, like a one shot, like we did RuneQuest at one time.
Mhm.
But there was a problem. This printing down here supposed to say something to the effect of when you hit, you do 1d6 damage. So when I was reading this over, this was before the internet, I was thinking, okay, I got this, I got that. Okay, they don't really tell how combat's supposed to be run, but I'll just do the d6 initiative high. But wait a minute, how much damage you do? And I could not figure it out because this was before the internet. I could just Google it. So it never happened.
Just didn't occur. Huh?
Yeah, so whatever this printing is, it's missing the crucial bit of information. And
Well,
then
it's also missing the combat system effectively, right? I mean, it's a tag on to chainmail, yeah.
this is also
It's funny
State Street
how that-
model.
Oh, yeah. It's funny how back then when we didn't have today it's just almost intuitive with that stuff, where back then we actually needed someone to explain the rules and because it wasn't around.
Right. No, I mean,
Yeah.
that's why Dragon Magazine and Sage Advice
Mhm.
was so
Yes. Yep.
important because
Yep.
it gave you errata or rules for clarifications that otherwise your group.
Wait.
You were lucky
It
if
was
you knew another gaming
strategic
group
review. It was strategic review at the time.
when that first came out. That's true. It's before Dragon Magazine.
Yeah, Dragon came out in '76, I think.
In the old days.
I gotcha.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, and I have all the supplements too.
Okay.
These three. Well, I had a Blackmore that I bought in State Street Motto as well, but I donated that to Purple Fox for their charity.
Man, you were pretty generous. Pretty
Well,
generous with those, Rob.
this was a while ago, so it was
Yeah.
slightly lower. But these three, I went in with, I forgot who. It was on one of the old school forums, but some guy was selling his collection, and neither one of us could afford the collection, but we could split it. And I
Okay.
needed these three, he needed the others. Although we did carefully examine these because they almost seem to be too good. So
Too
there's a
clean.
yeah, I'm looking at the staples. There's a little bit of rust on them, so they may be somebody carefully kept original. But yeah, so I have these supplements, but this one I bought at State Street. This one I bought separately from somewhere else.
What's that one, Rob? Is that that's the? Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is the successor to Chainmail for Mass Combat
Right. Okay.
for D&D.
Which is why it's called Swords and Spells, so that makes sense.
Right.
And finally, I got supplement 5 Carcosa and my own supplement 6, which we both arrogantly thought to put us in that continuous line of descent.
Who's both? The Carcosa guy? Yeah. Well, remember you were. Yeah. So back when Rob was making that, he was all worried about putting supplement 6 because he didn't want to sound arrogant and everything. And I said, just do it, Rob. Who cares? Just if you make a good product, nobody's going to give a crap. And that.
Yeah. The only thing missing out of here that I got to print out is what's supplement 7 Pelotonomy's Musing, which is you're going to play OD&D. That is absolutely great analysis of the.
I do remember
that. So Mr. Gum was complaining about the sci-fi background. So here's another background for you. Another tavern scene, okay? There you go. I'm sitting in the right spot with the dwarf. Rob is sitting. No, actually, you're sitting in James. Is that the James Bond position, the halfling position? You might be in the James Bond
I
position.
think. Yeah, I think that's the. I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
In the middle of the table where everybody spills their drinks.
There you go.
One more reach around. So.
No,
I don't know if everybody heard.
Embraced it.
So I don't know if anybody. There's a store in the United States called Ollie's, and they sell things dirt cheap. And evidently, a couple of Wizards, I guess, high-end products didn't do so well.
Well, if that's the shape of the box, I can see why.
Well, okay. Let's just say trying to get this open was
all right.
It required a couple dust checks here, but so they're selling these for $3 and a board game called Warriors of Krynn for like $8 or something. I didn't get the one I want from Ollie's called Terrain. That's the useful one. It's kind of like the dungeon tiles, except the tiles are blank and they have stick-ons that you can put on there. But I got to say, the box on this is pretty sturdy. The contents look pretty dodgy. Because what this is a creature supplement, creature pogs, and you start off with a box you lift up, and a little folder, and a whole bunch of creature pogs.
Oh, okay.
but these are not stickers. They were like whatever that. I don't know what we had them in school, Tim, but they kind of apply and then you can peel them off. So,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what they're called, but yeah.
So these are pretty heavy, which is kind of nice.
So it's just like a collection of Pog creatures or something like that.
Yeah, so you can put it on there and put them on your battle map. And if you don't want to pay out miniatures or had something more compact, and then you can peel it off and put it back on.
Oh, very cool. How many creatures do they have in there, Rob? Does it say like
sheet 1, sheet 2?
Oh, different sizes too. Okay.
Yeah.
Sheet 3.
Is this like color forms where you can take them on and take them off?
That's it. Yeah, they're like color.
Oh, is that what they're called? Color forms. Okay.
Yeah, I had this, the
Shrinky dinks.
Not shrinky dinks. Shrinky dinks is different.
That's something else.
You gotta cook them in your oven, and then
Gotta
they
cook 'em in
shrink.
your oven.
Like
So they give
got
you
penis in the cold ocean. They shrink.
It's funny that you bring
thank you,
those up,
John.
Rob, because like I have one of the only things I have from 4th edition. What is it called? The Monster Vault. And that thing weighs about 5 or 6 pounds, and all it's made of it's just filled with creature pogs, and they're heavy duty, so they look nicer than those, you know. So they kind of cheapened down the. Not that I'm surprised, but I mean, there's a lot in there though.
Rob is probably paying what it costs them to make it, so it balances
Exactly.
out.
Yeah. The box looks really nice that they put it. The box itself I think that's worth more than the color forms. Yeah.
Yeah, what I may do is just store these in another box and just reuse the box for something.
Yeah, that does look nice.
TXG, Jeff Talanian, I believe that he was on the list for North Texas. I don't see the list on the Facebook group at the moment. But Jeff should be at North Texas as far as I know. I do know that Jeff is doing less conventions. So, but I think that for him, North Texas is home away from home, like it is for many of us.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Gunn. Yeah, but you just come. Yeah, even your observations are complaints. So I'd like to observe that it's cold outside and wet. Okay.
It's not particularly cold here, but it is sure the hell wet. I feel like everything's melting in the ground around here.
Yeah.
That's right. RPG Grandma, if you're driving, don't watch, just listen.
Yeah.
I don't want it on the police accident report to be distracted while watching Tenkar's Tavern.
And Rob's reach arounds.
Yeah, Rob Conley did a reach around, and I was stunned, I tell you, for what I saw. It was a crime against humanity. $3 color forms. I can't believe it in today's day and age.
Well, the dry erase, using those for, well, at least no, you would have to use the lighter one for dry erase, but using them for dry erase, that's a good idea.
Mr. Gunn, spirograph, you shall never say that word again in this forum.
You know, the Easy Bake Oven was always a disappointment.
Yeah, well, you know how you baked quicker, right? You had to get a more powerful light bulb.
Right.
I was lucky in that I got to try it at one of my friend's house, and I said, I don't want this for Christmas.
My best worst toy was Big Track, which was an early programmer, but wasn't remote control. You had to program it by pressing the keypad, how far it would go forward, left, right, and it had like a dump truck attachment to it.
I do remember that. Yeah.
It used like 14,000 D batteries, so it was expensive.
Well, what year was that, Eric? Roughly?
Oh my God, had to be. I'm going to say roughly late 70s, 78, 79, maybe.
I had this Matt Mason toy that does the same thing, but what you had to do is it was like a tower, and it had a little cockpit where Matt Mason, the astronaut, sit, and the thing had these orange things, and it had a dial down there with 5 holes and 8 quadrants or 8 octants or whatever. And you, depending on which hole you had these things plugged in, the thing spin around and ran a little program, and it would go left, right, forward, and stuff like that. It came with an instruction book. It was a neat toy to play with. It's basically analog programming.
You know, I enjoyed the big track. The idea was I'll bring a coffee out to my father from the kitchen to the living room using the big track. Not realizing that, like, in the hallway, like where the door was, there was like that bottom framing.
Yeah.
The big track would, and then spill all the coffee all over the place. So I still remember that happening and going, oh, bummer. Now I got to clean all that up. And it didn't leak much because all the coffee kind of stayed in the back of the big track's dump truck area, but
Right.
not as feasible. That's what they showed you in the cartoons. Look, you can bring your father a can of soda or beer or whatever, I'm sure.
Right.
You know, as he's watching TV, be the attentive young child. Like, no. And by the
They
way,
didn't say anything about open container, kind of stuff.
So put that into perspective. It got retired like, maybe a year and a half later because I found D&D. So it was on this shelf that was above my bed. And now this is a house built in 1905 with plaster walls. And I started then piling my D&D books on that same shelf with this big track filled with D batteries. And we are a block and a half away from the Long Island Railroad, which used to run diesel trains back then. They are much heavier and louder. And my room would shake as they went by.
Oh, boy.
The room shook, the shelf collapsed, everything landed on top of me, whacked me in the head. And
Did you play Traveler? Because you saw all the stars.
I probably could have. And what did I do? I just shoved the shit away enough that I could go back to sleep. Figured I'd deal with it in the morning. So
there you go.
And then the first thing I did was like, I'm not using this big track. Can we give it away to somebody?
Done with it, huh?
Done with it. It's not safe. No horse hair and lathing. Although the basement where you got the supports and you normally would expect, like, I don't know, like an 8x8 or whatever you're usually expect. No, we got tree trunks. I can still pull bark off the supports in the basement for this house.
Wow.
Which blows my mind. That's how you can judge how they didn't let anything go to waste, even the bark. So.
Well, I have some somewhat good personal news. For the first time in 30 years, I'm below 300 pounds.
That's fantastic, Rob. That's
awesome,
great.
Rob. Awesome. So you're getting yourself into like fighting shape to kick Joe's ass next StarCon.
Well, I do got a treadmill, and I've been using it off and on, not as often as I should. But yeah, Joe is going to get a little surprised next year. This fall. Actually, it is next year. So this fall.
Next StarCon. Coming September 2024.
Yeah, but you guys got to do it in front of other people, though. Just not in Joe's backyard,
I'll do it wherever,
We need to close off the streets in front of the movie theater in
There's a parking lot. There's a parking lot right next to it. They can
do the whole thing right.
No, I have a family of history of diabetes, and I was officially diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 2 years ago. So that allowed me to get on this thing called Mounjaro, and it really helps. But just know, folks, I'm like nauseated 2/3 of the time. So
I know exactly how it was.
Tim, I just consider being on Mounjaro right now, and I hope I can go on something else after I hit whatever target weight that the doctor wants me about. But I'm just considering this part of my life, like August at Mevo Bulldog football training.
All the horrible pain and
just
the suffering. No, that's good,
I
Rob.
know.
That's glad to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
good to hear.
That's awesome. See, my Moonjaro experience was if I kept myself busy, I was good. But the moment I stopped doing something and my mind wasn't otherwise occupied, I got the nausea would sneak in because it was always there. But if you were occupied, you kind of ignore it most of the time. There were times when my mother opened up a bag of black licorice in the back of my effing car and said, "Anybody want some?" And I got so nauseous, I had to roll down my window as I was driving and put my head out the window to grab air. I took my glasses off because I was afraid I was going to lose them if I started puking outside the car. And I was like,
Oh, God.
is Eric okay? Does he need licorice? Rachel's laughing because that's pretty much how it went down.
Yes.
Right.
Does he need licorice? It'll help his stomach. I don't like black licorice, by the way, folks. Can't stand the taste. Find the smell to be even worse.
Yeah, and if you decide to try one of the drugs related to Mounjaro, make sure you talk to your doctor extensively about it because if you read up on it, it seems to be low probability, but there could be complications. So got to keep an eye on it.
In my case, it raised my resting heartbeat about 12 to 14 points.
Yep, that's one.
So thankfully, it wasn't covered by my insurance, and the coupon deal that they had going was a limited time only. And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, so you're telling me it's not $35 a month anymore? It's now $450. Thank you. It's a good reason to get off it. And I went,
Fuck off, Mounjaro.
and then I was like, oh look, my heart rate went down after about a month. I was like, okay. So
I also recommend that you don't start it until you successfully stop your weight gain. Maybe you're not losing weight, and there's lots of reasons why it's hard to lose weight. But if you stop your weight gain for an extended period of time, then when you come off the Mounjaro, maybe you won't start shooting up. Like there's a lot of reports of that.
And that was a segment of the old man version of the program.
Yes.
Okay, Eric, what's in the world of RPG and the OSR? What's new?
Well, we're gonna segue now from that's a preview, by the way, for tomorrow's Gamers Health.
Right,
Yeah.
Gamers Health preview. Yeah,
We're glad to be of service, Eric.
You know, when you want to hear the old fucks talking about their health, this is the channel you come to.
That's right.
Yes. Darn it, we have the best of the best. Well, there's one thing that we're not going to cover tonight because and we might cover it a little bit tomorrow. We'll see. It is an article basically about how horrible some people in gaming are. And in this case, many of them are in the OSR because their target was Zach Smith. And I'm going to preface this with what I always say. I wouldn't cross the street to piss on the man if he was on fire. Don't like him, personal level. However, the accusations that were thrown around about him being an offender, I'm not going to say what type because, Google gets all upset. But these accusations were never criminal. They were never filed. And I would say he's not a X until he's convicted of X. Well, you can see people they have actual clips of people talking, actual interviews with real people. It's from a doctor of social work, and it's a very interesting read. I am going to reread it before tomorrow, and I may address parts of this and other stuff, but it is too much to go into here. Although, if you have a copy of this, please don't send it to me because I've already had 5 different people send me links or email me PDFs of the article. I appreciate it. But yeah. Now, we'll take a step back then because Rob, and I saw the video too. Was it Indestructo Boy?
Yeah, Indestructo Boy.
Indestructo Boy had a video up, and it was nominally about Shadow Dark. And why do I say nominally about Shadow Dark? Well, he obviously likes the game, but the first half of the video is about Shadow Dark, and the last half of the video is about what is the OSR. And being that this is a community that generally can't agree on what the R in OSR stands for, and he asked people outside the OSR what the OSR was. So didn't I think he only asked one? If you count Professor DM as part of the OSR, there were like two people that are OSR centric. Everybody else, many of them, I just kind of went, I've never heard of them.
Mhm.
I don't, it's like, but they all seem to be people who did quality, I say quality, visual quality videos on YouTube, which is
I
something
think a
that this
third of the
channel does not
people
do.
he roped in didn't know what the OSR was. One guy said, "I never heard of this."
It sounds like old school, so it's old people going back to school for role playing.
Now,
Is
I will say, in fairness to Indestructible Boy, he had those people on, and somehow, after that, he reaches a very even-hand conclusion. I don't agree all with it, but it isn't like throw up in your hand up, throw your hands up in the air and groan. No, it was very. I was surprised how even-handed it was, and uh, basically he said that yes, there are extreme right wingers, there are bigots, there are jerks in the OSR, but they are dwarfed by the number of people who just want to game, and
yeah.
there are also people who hold political views similar to, he called them left wing political views similar to uh, Indestructible Boy, and so it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So he did a good job with that at least. But
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. No,
No, what I didn't like, and this is not like this is unwarranted criticism or something. I didn't like a lot of the people he talked to made it distinguish between OSR revival and OSR renaissance, and they defined. It wound up the definition of revival was those people who did the retro clone, the very close retro clones like Osiric, Old School Essentials, Labyrinth Lord, Swords and Wizardry. And then the Renaissance are those people who would take inspiration from how things work with those editions, but come up with something newer, like if some of you may remember Blood and Treasure, which basically was sort of like a 3E kind of engine but with OSR sensibilities and simplicity. For example, he had the triple save, Fortitude, Reflex, Will. And then, of course, there's Shadow Dark, which is very minimalist, very straightforward, but it definitely, you can see its 5E origins in a lot of the mechanics.
right.
And I think at this point, there's so many nuances, what people do with their projects, that we really can't just divide people into any kind of boxes. There's just one OSR and subtle shades of, they're like ink stains that spread all over the paper. Some of them merge here, some of them merge there. Some of them are really clear. That's why ink stains have a center. They have bright color. But really, until you dig into it, the label doesn't really help, because you have to look at actually what they do to figure out what particular nuance they are. Hope that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, and I think that's been going on for a while. I mean, Rob, I don't know if you remember this argument, but it was a huge one for a few people when DCC RPG released, and
Oh yeah,
it was, this is an OSR, and you know what? What defines OSR? Is it the way the rules are written, or is it the gameplay? If if the rules encourage a certain style of gaming, doesn't that make it OSR? OSR, is there a minimum requirement to be OSR? Does it have to have a D20 and a D6 minimal?
well, if you're going to be somewhat different, okay. Now the DCC RPG took some of its themes from Swords and Sorcery
Right.
and stuff like that. So it was of interest. But what they did in the run up to the DTRPG, they went around to OSR Pro. They gave us playtest file. They gave me a playtest file. I killed my artist with a door with the playtest file
Yes,
up
you
at
did.
ErieCon. And yeah, Jason Schultes, he cast an
Okay.
enlarged spell, the only spell he had. And he rolled a critical success. Didn't go well with him. So, but they did this for months on end, for convention after convention, just showing, look at this fun thing that we go in. And so at the very least, they're honorary OSR, and probably just might as well make it simple and say that they're OSR. They really work at asking our opinions, incorporating our opinions, and getting us involved in the process of developing the DC RPG. Now,
Well,
Mr. Gunn, I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead.
Now, Mr. Gunn asked the question: is the video clickbait? In the beginning, sort of, but is it toxic, or whining, or saying the OSR is full of jerks and stuff? No. That's what's surprising about it. So
Well,
44 minutes.
yeah, I'll be honest with you. I got through about 35, and then I didn't go back to it. And why is that? Because although I'll be the first to say, if you ask me to define the OSR, I'm either going to give you a one-sentence answer or I'm going to give you an essay, and neither one is going to give you a better answer, because my one-sentence answer is going to be the OSR. I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
I know a game that fits the aesthetics, that fits the gameplay. Now, to me, and for some people, the OSR means, well, it has to be based on one of the editions of D&D from TUI or prior. But for me, the OSR includes things like, oh, well, then like Rollmaster and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay and Traveler and even GURPS stuff that and Tunnels and Trolls. These are the games that we played in RuneQuest, intermingled with D&D. What are we playing this week? What's going to be the next session? So these were being played at the same time. So they have a lot of times a similar feel. Again, the first sandbox I ever run, I didn't know what a sandbox was until I found RuneQuest and Pavis and Big Rubble, and then I went. It was like one of those like moments when you get that spiritual awakening. It's like, oh, this makes sense now. I hadn't seen how that would work, but now it made sense. So that, to me, all that, anything that brings back my feeling of gaming from my college years and earlier is OSR, but it doesn't have to be a clone or a simulacrum exact fit. I mean, Swords and Wizardry Light is a D20 and a D6, did away with the experience points, did away with Infravision. It takes things, but it still feels like an original game. It's still, if you played back in the day, there's no concept that you're gonna look at and go, oh, I don't get it. And I think again, it's like pornography. You know it when you see it, and you kind of have to know it when you see it with the OSR, which I think is why people from outside the OSR don't always get it, or they see the OSR only as personalities. They don't see it as the games.
I always say it's centered on those who play, promote, and publish for the Classic Edition in D&D, and the other things that interest them, and they just don't understand when that other things that interest them, how much that blends in to their interest in classic D&D, resulting in the melange of stuff like in the early days. From the get-go, we're talking 2008, 2007, we had the Gonzo OSR, we had the Retroclone guys, and we had me, part of the Sandbox crew. And it just kept spreading, and people just bringing in little nuances and interest in there, and it just hasn't stopped, and it's grown so big. I don't think any one of us knows the true scope of how far the OSR reach is. But I do know one thing: when it comes to people talking about bigotry, zealotry, gatekeeping, and stuff like that. That most everybody misses because nobody's used to this. Everybody's used to this publisher owning this IP, and their control over it's absolute.
Right.
And they set the standard, they set the tone, and at the end of the day, if they do something you don't like, your only recourse is to stick with the old stuff, ignore the new, or just leave it altogether because you can't do anything about it. But that's not the case with the OSR because the OSR started with a hack, of the D20 SRD that basically said, you know, if we don't use the 3 save system, if we don't use feats, if we don't use proficiencies, we just keep the basics. What's left is hop and skip from AD&D, BX, AD&D 2E. So with a little bit of work and some legal advice, some timely legal advice, we can make the retroclone and actually revive these systems. But that hack is not limited to those original guys. It's not limited to Matt Finch, Stuart Marshall, Chris Gonerman.
No.
Right. Anybody can apply that hack. So that means if you do not like something in the OSR, you can show us how it's wrong. And I don't know how you can be more open than that.
Well,
I mean, you just go and drive through, put your stuff up, go to Lulu, put the stuff up, go to itch.io and put your stuff up. It's going to be work. It's not going to become just because you slap OSR in your book doesn't mean, build it and they come. That's not going to happen.
No.
You got to put the work in the social media, talking your stuff up if you really want to make a go of it. But there's nobody that can stop you. I can't stop you. Eric, Tim, everybody in this chat. Nobody else can stop us. If we bitch and complain, you can just tune yourself, block us, and just continue to do your own thing.
Well, I mean, I look at the OSR, and the OSR is, and this is the reason why last year's fiasco or the 2022 fiasco at the end of 2022 was so huge for us. The OSR owes its creation to the OGL, the Open Game License. And it owes it to it because the OGL is essentially a viral license. As it was written, the intent is that you build off the content of others. And that is what the OSR has been doing for the better part of a decade or longer. And the OGL, when Wizards gave us the Creative Commons for the 5.1 SRD, it was a very nice gesture, and it was allowed you to go, okay, well, they can't F with that. But it also meant that they're trying to get people away from using the Open Game License and using that viral aspect to it, which is why the OSR is so strong as powerful as it has been, in my opinion.
Well, actually, the license they chose it's not viral. You copy the 5e SRD, adapt it to however you want, and it could the chain of sharing can stop there.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. With the Creative Commons, it's not viral. With the OGL, it is
viral.
It is viral, and that I think is a huge reason for the success of the OSR movement, which in a lot of ways can be seen as the open game movement to some extent. I really do think that is a huge part of it. But I think another part of it is in recent years how much easier it has become, how much less expensive it has become to self-publish, whether you're putting out 4 pages or 40 pages or 400 pages. You have the ability. If there was an OGL for original D&D back in the day, yeah, okay, other companies maybe would have made a better D&D, but they wouldn't have been supporting the core system. Whereas when they got, we saw the issue with the D20 license was that people were stamping it on product as a quality assured. Wizards of the Coast has given us this D20 license, and if you buy this product, you know it's compatible with your D&D rules, even if it is shit. Which is why in the end they revoked it, but they couldn't revoke the OGL. And the OGL is the reason why 3.0, 3.5 did as well as it did, It's a huge reason for the success of 5.0. And it's a huge reason for the success of the OSR. It gave us Pathfinder. Not that I play Pathfinder, but it showed that, if WotC let the torch burn out through their own incompetence, another company could effectively pick up that torch and carry it and hold it aloft for other gamers. And there have been numerous hacks of Pathfinder too. So I mean, I don't know. I guess the OSR in the end is, again, hard to define. We spent, I don't know, the last 15 minutes discussing the OSR, and I don't think we've come any closer to defining what it is.
Well,
and I don't think you can.
I mean, we're trying to give it concrete attributes. We should look at it as a process. What the OSR is what you make of the classic edition, the open content that's based on the classic edition. That's it. What you do with it, that's the only common denominator. There are other people using open content to do everything, but the OSR seems to be centered. Everybody's doing these projects. You can trace a route back to one of the classic editions of D&D, however convoluted it is. That's
right.
Because these classic editions are out of print, and they act sort of like a center, a sun, or a black hole that keeps things a little bit in orbit. The only definition we can give is what you do with the content. It could be anything. It could be a mashup of 5e and BX. It could be a mashup of 5e and AD and 2e. It may not be a mashup, but you may just take a couple names from here and there and come up with something like Morkborg Classic. I don't know,
Stewart says there isn't just one OSR community. It's at least 3 larger ones on Facebook, several on Reddit, vague overlapping ones on Twitter, plus blogs, itch, etc. But there is, I always look at the OSR as, what are the Venn diagrams? And the OSR is this a larger diagram, and then within it there are sub-communities. And some of them overlap and some of them don't, but they all stand within that larger OSR. And I know some people get very upset. No, the OSR isn't a community. The OSR is a way of making games and has nothing to do with community. Well, you know what? There's a community that forms around that. If you don't want to be a part of it, nobody is going to put a gun to your head and say, you got to be part of it. Just ignore it. But there is certainly an OSR community. To say otherwise is a misnomer. But it has many different chapters, many different subgroups, and even these subgroups often have splintering subgroups within them. It's just the nature of it.
I always said, if you ever want an example of true creative freedom looks like, the OSR is not perfect, but it's the closest thing we have got, especially in the tabletop industry. I mean, it's just literally lying on the ground for anybody to pick up. It's literally there for somebody random who doesn't even interact with any of us to say, what's this file? Download it. Oh, I can share it? Oh, okay, that's the license allows me to share it. And now they're typing it up, and 2 years later they found out, there are other people doing it? This isn't some dead RPG I just happen to like?
Yeah, that's the fun part of it. I mean, I remember the early days of D&D on the internet. Somewhere I still have the files of the netbooks. The various netbooks for D&D, the unofficial, that TSR was going to stamp out. If you had this stuff, you were violating their IP and trademark. And that was not a way that you really endear yourself to your fans that are trying to homebrew and enjoy your property. I mean, wasn't even like this stuff was being sold for profit. It wasn't even being sold. So
I got an ignorant question here. What the hell's a
Yeah.
netbook?
Oh,
Okay. Go ahead, Rob.
back in the day, this was kind of based on the same technology that email is based on, because it was something called Usenet, and
Okay.
there are lists, and you subscribe to a list, and you would get stuff that would look like email, but they acted more like forums. Okay, they had
I
topics,
think right. Okay.
and the
Yeah, because
netbook
I think were
were
they called like email groups or something like that also? Oh, I didn't know that was called a netbook or whatever.
no. Okay, so
No.
netbooks in some of the role playing group, they collaborated on basically a product, a work, an RPG book, but it was
Mhm.
basically a text file, and they call in the slang for them was netbooks,
Oh, okay. All right.
and they're basically a very large text file. They run, I think the biggest one I've seen is like if you actually tried to print it out, it would be 100 or 200 pages worth of stuff, and they just float it around, and you download it and keep them in a folder on your hard drive and reference them wherever you want.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know anything about this.
All right, so there's a little conversation going on about the OGL and
Yeah.
just using for use with. All right, so let's address that real quickly. You mentioned Judges Guild. Judges Guild used to be a licensee for D&D and AD&D. When they lost the license, they went to the Judges Guild system bullshit, or whatever the
Right.
fuck you call it, which is a made up system of like I don't know, like
Didn't make any sense. Yeah.
made no sense, but you had to like translate shit in your head. Mayfair Games with Rolaids did not have a license to be compatible with AD&D or D&D, and they used the for use with. This is not a licensed product, and all those disclaimers. And they went to court. And I do believe, in the end, they won. They lost. And when I say that they won, I believe the court decision was in their favor. However, they were now bankrupt.
Yeah,
And all their
won the
material,
battle, lost the war kind of deal.
yeah, all
Yeah.
that material that was went to TSR. So I think the book of like for 2E, I think the book of the Chronomancer,
Chronomancer,
that was Mayfair Games material that they picked up. So, the OGL is a safe harbor. Now, it's only a safe harbor so long as you believe it's irrevocable. The moment that Watsy goes, irrevocable, what's semantics, what's language, we're just going to cancel it. Now it becomes something different. Now, as Rob was explaining earlier, with the Creative Commons, it isn't viral, but it isn't they can't once it's in the Creative Commons, it is there, which is why Kevin Crawford has been putting out his SRD system resource documents for his games under Creative Commons 0, which is effectively public domain for all intents and purposes. You don't even have to thank him, but you really fucking should.
Yeah.
But honestly, I mean that's and that should also show you a bit of what the OSR is about. The OSR is about creators working with creators supporting other creators. I'm not saying there aren't bad actors in the OSR, but I have not seen a creative community be as generous with its time with other people who have questions about, especially usually layout. It's usually layout questions I see being asked, and then somebody who's it could be the CEO of a company or the chief tech guy of another company that's doing this for a living goes, hey, yeah, listen, if you got like 2 hours tomorrow, I'll hit a Zoom call with you and I'll go over it. They're not looking for anything for that, except for the fact that they're looking for the community to thrive. For other creatives to be able to create. They realize that this isn't a zero sum. If Rob creates something that does good on the marketplace, and Tim has something that Rob's not gonna be like, oh, I just cock blocked you, Tim. Sorry, man. You're not gonna be able to make any sales because he won't even give you the reach around. He's gonna be like, I got the sales. You don't. No, it's not a zero sum. It
Right.
isn't. Well, money was spent here. It's not going to be spent there.
Well, if Tim comes at me, I am well defended with my array of weaponry.
He's well defended over there. Yeah.
Oh, geez. I plead the fifth. I don't know what's going on here.
Okay, so one little bit of logistic. I found a netbook archive. If you want to post that link for people to enjoy.
Oh, shoot, definitely.
I cannot vouch for the quality of netbooks, and they are giant text files.
They certainly are.
They are formatted the way you could. I don't know if people remember ASCII formatting, but
I do.
They have ASCII tables, and so they try their best.
Wow! Oh, damn! There's a lot of netbooks here.
Oh yeah, and one thing from an Instructor Boys video that one of his commentators, the people he brought in, said he said he wasn't sure that if the OSR is really a bunch of creators selling to other creators, which there have been communities like that, but we all know what the numbers. We've seen the the OSE get over $1 million. The Necrotic Gnome guys get over $1 million for Doman Woods and their old school essentials. I mean, I can say it safely that the OSR in aggregate, it definitely has a market the size of a 2 or 3 second tier traditional publishers. I mean, maybe there's only a handful that could be considered traditional publisher, but in aggregate, all of us putting stuff out there, it's a pretty big market. It hasn't really stopped growing. As far as I can tell.
Here's the thing, though. I think in the OSR, a greater percentage of the OSR than other role-playing communities considers themselves creators.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you don't have to create a lot, but I think that creative itch often strikes in the OSR. Now, Stuart is talking about with his releases, and by the way, if you find Stuart stuff on Drive-Thru, it's all well written and it's a lot of it's fun stuff. I've been using for use with BXD&D and similar gaming systems, and Dungeons and Dragons and D&D are trademarks of Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro Incorporated, for 12 years now. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Wizards is looking for the bad publicity of smacking somebody down, especially of our size, your size. I don't think there's any benefit in it from them.
Eric, they sent freaking Pinkertons to one guy's house. What are you talking about?
No, he's a Pinkertons for.
If Stuart wants to feel comfortable with that risk, more power to him. I don't feel comfortable. I am not going to do that.
Usually, if you're going to be using compatible with, your ability to use specific terms goes out the window. That's the other thing too. When you use in the OGL, you can use specific terms that otherwise may be stepping on things that could be considered to be IP. So there is that little shelter. If Kevin Crawford, his books, which are clearly OSR in nature, are not under the OGL.
Nope.
Kevin has that's a man who has carefully gone through and rewritten anything that could come close to be considered D&D text to not be D&D text, but it is definitely D&D, historically D&D powered games if you're just looking at the core system. But again, if you want to write stuff that is roughly D&D compatible, OSR, and you don't want to go you don't want to go with the Creative Commons, and you don't want to touch the OGL, and you think that anything based off a WotC game is evil, Kevin Crawford stuff, I don't think he has a CC out for Worlds Without Number yet, but I do believe that was one of the
I
things.
think it's forthcoming, or it's going to be a condition when he does one of the reprint.
We did the reprint for Worlds Without Number, so I got my reprint.
Right.
I love his stuff. Someday I'm gonna run one of them, but Kevin is, again, for somebody to give back to the community, which is what often I talk about with the OSR. It's a very generous community of their time, of their money when people are in need. Kevin's Kickstarters right from the start. I think Spears of the Dawn was the
Spears
first
at
one.
Dawn.
Spears at Dawn.
Okay. That one was the first one that I ever saw Kickstarter put the art into the public domain. So anybody could use it in their projects. That is giving back to the community, and that's an acknowledgement that by its very nature, the OSR is heavily tilted toward creatives and creators. So again, tip of the hat to Kevin on that one. That's huge.
Yeah, Mr. Gunn wants us to remind who Kevin Crawford is. I'm looking for his list of Kickstarters so people can. Yep, there's one.
There's a lot of them. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. So I'm gonna.
Created by that's a pop out. I remember using.
All right, so hold on. No, I'm gonna. And
I'll do a mini reach around. There's one of his worlds.
Here, I got a link to his store up on Drive-Thru, and folks, I'm not even putting an affiliate link on this one, but this is, you're gonna go here, and now something else that we didn't mention about what Kevin does, but this is something that you've seen in the OSR in the past. He puts out his PDF products in free and paid for versions.
I was just going to mention that. Yeah.
Okay, which isn't with not everything has a free version. I don't think Wolves of God has a free version. A lot of his supplemental material is not free, but the core rules for Cities Without Number, Worlds Without Number, Stars Without Number, you can get these core rules and you can get it fully playable. It isn't a quick start. And his writing, his game system now, when he puts something into the Creative Commons, it doesn't include his tag system, I believe he calls it, which is what he uses to generate pretty much adventuring on the go, to run the stuff all as a sandbox. But not that you can't use the system, but you'd have to define your own tags.
Also, Worlds Without Number, Stars Without Number, revised edition. They are adamantine, the highest level, sales level. I mean, he sold over 5,000 copies.
Right. This is a guy who's giving away free versions of the rules. They're full versions, just lacking some of the supplemental material that and he's still selling 5,000 plus copies, and his Kickstarters do extremely well. He even has a free, I believe, booklet on how to run a successful Kickstarter. So
he has. I haven't seen a project that hasn't sold less than platinum yet.
Yeah, just amazing stuff. He's got. I'm gonna. All right, so which is you just broke. It went back so far. Cities Without Number, by the way, the full game is like 260 pages. But Scarlet Heroes is Scarlet Heroes is your small gaming group, right? Like, you're not playing with your normal 5 to 6.
Yeah, it's almost a one-on-one kind of system.
Yeah, I think it still works with I think you can still work it with
low numbers, but
it's made to work with a really small group, and it is so well done. I can't stress it enough. Stars Without Number is a sci-fi game that I I'd probably really enjoy running it. I don't really enjoy running too much sci-fi. I don't know why. I love watching it. Just
I don't
really-
know. This whole group of ours doesn't like sci-fi. I keep asking, can we play some Traveler? No, Rob.
I never tell you no. I just don't want it for me. And Eric, he suckered everybody to buy into White Star, and because he's going to run a game, and then he ran one session.
Well, White Star, I could pull something
It's
up.
a very fast system, yeah.
Yeah.
I have an outline of a Majestic Star supplement for White Star, but the settings I work on, sci-fi settings I work on, never seem to quite gel. I haven't figured them out the same way I figured out how to run my Sandbook campaign.
So, White Star, by the way, is James Spawn.
James Bond.
The Spawn.
It's good. Quite elegant.
Yeah, White Star is Star Wars with the serial number scraped off, from a D20 system. I wrote character classes for it, believe it or not.
Yes,
They're
you
up
did.
on
I
the
played
wall.
one of them.
You know,
Played your
so
smuggler one or something.
yeah, we had a smuggler, we had a Star Marshal, and we had the con man. I forget what I called it. The snake oil salesman.
Yeah, I don't remember what that one was called.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah, you had you made like
Yeah.
3 classes up for it. Yeah.
Yep. So, it's really well done, and I was surprised because I got to play in North Texas. God, it's gonna be 2 years ago with James Shields. He ran a D6 Star Wars / Aliens crossover.
Star
And
Wars.
And I had a lot of fun with that one. Listen, I am not a Star Wars groupie. I enjoy the good series that are on when they're on, and if they're not going to be a good series, I don't waste. I didn't watch Kenobi. It's not like I have better things to spend my time on than a lukewarm Star Wars series. But I had a blast playing my failed Jedi, and I did have to ask, listen, I'm a failed Jedi. Is he older or younger failed? He goes, oh, he's older failed. Oh, then he's an alcoholic. I got it right now. I know how I'm playing this one out very well. Everything he's seen over the years drove him off the edge of the bottle. That's okay. I can play this.
Yeah.
I knew enough cops in my rookie time that I could see that in their face. It's like, yeah, the ones that survived the streets in the 70s and 80s when it was all like shootings in the South Bronx. You saw that look on them. It's like, yep. Before they even leave the station house to go home, they're going to be having a few swigs from the bottle. Yeah, just to steady out their nerves for the ride. So that's how I played my Fallen Jedi. But
yeah, Mr. Gunn said it might be a B5 reboot or continuation. I heard that rumor. I don't know. I'll believe it when Warner Brothers pulls their head out of their ass. I mean,
they've been talking about that for the last 2 years.
I was going to say it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
this may be one of the things that the strike screwed up.
Yeah, it really could be. And that's when I look at the recent writers actors strike, it's pretty bad when you see a network putting up programming, and it was CSI Sydney. It's like, all right, they need new programming, and they've licensed the CSI branding to Australia. And now, because they need new programming, we're going to get CSI Aussie-land. It's like, yeah, okay.
Right.
So it's good, though, because it weaned me from what little commercial TV I used to watch. Now I'm all pretty much on demand. I really should cancel cable. I know that's not
You haven't canceled cable yet? Jesus.
No, I still keep it. Listen, the only thing is, at the time I say I should cancel cable, it's always like, oh man, but football season's gonna start. The only reason why I watch. And it's like, yeah.
Oh, it was a casualty of the Discovery buyout. Okay.
Well, they have NFL and like Prime now and a bunch of other streaming services.
Yeah, I know. I should and if I hooked up a digital antenna outside my window, I'm in New York City. I'll get channels. I'll be able to do that. But yeah.
Well, that's a little tough around here. There's a
Oh
reason
yeah.
why we had one of the earliest cable systems in the country.
Because you were in the middle of nowheres.
Well, there's enough hills around Meadville that a lot of people had crappy reception. So a guy, I don't know what his name is, but started Meadville Master Antenna and ran a tower up on the tallest hill and
Uh-huh.
ran cable to the town. And we had cable since the 1930s or something, some ridiculously early date.
Wow. Okay. So my parents' place in the Poconos, we got one channel with the roof antenna that was strong, and that was channel 44 WVIA, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Hazleton, PBS channel. It was a PBS channel that actually would like pay the money to get Star Trek, the Next
Oh
Generation,
wow.
early
Yeah.
on. I was like surprised,
No, very cool.
but we actually weren't getting it over channel 44. We were getting over like channel 63. There was a retransmitter. So my father, trying to get other channels, got a rotating, like the mechanical rotating antenna that you would control. But
Right.
you would kind of get like maybe channel 11 from New York on a the weather had to be perfect, and the antenna had to be perfect, and then you get some kind of TV that you could kind of interpret, and maybe you got the audio and very little video. It was bad, but VIA channel 44 was great, but it would go down once in a while. And it went down one time, and my father had to call up and say, "Hey, listen, I'm out here in the hall, the channel 44 is no longer coming over channel 63." And they're like, "All right, we'll check into it." And they called him back the next day, and they went, "Yeah, listen, apparently that like repeater station got hit by lightning last month, and nobody
Oh,
called. Nobody else called."
Holy shit!
That's the entire station was there for you guys, huh?
Yeah, that was one. That was us. So then they never fixed it. They realized
Oh,
they only had one household watching. Everybody else had cable.
right. It's
So,
funny though.
no, that was watching the panic. Is my parents were like bringing up like VHS tapes from home to be like, "All right, mom's gonna just tape 6 hours of TV, random TV to have random TV in the Poconos." So,
Something to watch there, yeah.
yeah, so I'm waiting
Oh,
on
who would
too.
play? I didn't see that.
What's
What was
that?
that, Rob?
Somebody said they would play Traveler with me.
Uh-oh. Play
Whoa.
Traveler with me. Traveler was the game that I could not get my group to play back in the 80s and 90s. I could get them to play Space Master. When we only had like two players, and Space Master kind of worked okay with a small group because you could kind of cover up like for like missing skill sets. But Traveler, my group had the same issue with it that I did, which was there's no experience. Whatever character you roll or the skills you got, you're not getting better. You're not
Right.
getting better. You're not learning new shit.
Oh, you'll get better after 4 years of in-game time.
In
And
any
I
case,
think 20,000, spending 20,000 credits on tape,
yeah,
learning
yeah,
tapes.
That sounds
no,
fun.
you weren't getting better. So that's when and by the time we really started looking at it, my group was like, "Aren't these computers too big?" I mean, like they're like half the ship. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like,
my best science fiction game, Mr. Gunn, was Star Trek: The Role Playing Game. I played the hell out of it in college, and I had a crew who was really into it. And this was in the movie era. This was just before TNG hit. And the best role playing session I ever ran was Star Trek: The Role Playing Game. We got to make a long story short, the players got thrown into an alternate timeline, figured out how to revert things back, and then the science officer said, and he was a communications major and had a beautiful radio voice, and he said in that voice, wait a minute, if we do this, we're killing billions, if not trillions, in this time. What gives us the right to do this? And then everybody debates. We had the hardcore, no, we got to go back to our timeline. And the guy who was playing the captain at one point went, I don't know what to do. Help me. But it was a great session with the intensity that only college age people can bring. They ultimately decided to restore the original timeline.
Like for us, like science fiction was rolling up Traveler characters, but we never actually got into like playing the game. It was
Exactly. Yeah.
just rolling up.
The character creation was the funnest part of Traveler. Yeah.
It's like I've got ablative. What the hell is ablative armor mean? What the hell is? I don't understand. It's like,
Right.
Now, Star Trek, the role-playing game, had one neat feature that really could be used in other science fiction role-playing. They had this tricorder display. Now, I'm not going to reach for it because it's buried over there, and I haven't pulled everything back here, so I can't get it. But what it is, it had dials, sort of like the AD&D combat wheel. And what you did, the dials had codes on them, and the DM had a cheat sheet. So rather than saying, okay, you see a Klingon ship 10,000 miles away off the port bow, you could look at your cheat sheet and tell the science officer player with the dial, okay, dial A5, B2, C7, and D9. And they would set it up, wouldn't take long, and then they can read it out. And it was kind of cool, and it made the science officer player feel like they're actually working using the sensors or running the tricorder.
That sounds neat.
Mr. Gunn, I put a comment into the comment section for you, but your comment about Fort Apache, the Bronx, that was my first command in 1997 was the 4-2 precinct, and that's where they filmed the assault on the precinct, the mob outside. That's where they filmed that scene, was the 4-2 precinct. That precinct was known as the Warriors of the Wasteland, because when we were there, those buildings where they were throwing bottles and rocks off of were gone. It was just our parking lots. And a lot of the precinct was still burned down in the late 90s.
Oh, jeez.
And then 6 months later, I get transferred. And I get transferred to the 401 precinct, which is Fort Apache, the Bronx. New building. The old building became the headquarters for Bronx Narcotics. But the building had just opened, like, I don't know, a year prior. And we were assigned to the new Fort Apache. And as an aside, there was one other precinct that I knew of that had a designation, an unofficial designation, and that was the 4-0, which was literally the very south part of the South Bronx. And that one was called Little House on the Prairie. And it was called Little House on the Prairie because there were blocks upon blocks of torn down tenements. So there was just all these nicknames had some kind of history to them.
So for Apache the Bronx, when you watched the movie and you watch how that assault unfold, was it accurate? I mean, if you were in that situation, was that how you defend that precinct building?
At that time, I mean, when I was there, we didn't have any close, tall buildings. Those buildings had been destroyed, burned out, and turned into our parking lots. But that was filmed. That parking area in front of the precinct was there. Honestly, I worked one small riot when I was in the South Bronx, and in the midst of it, the van I was in, somebody cut the brake fluid line. Don't
Oh,
ask me
jeez.
how. All I knew is we had no, we were going slow anyway. We were either parked or crawling, and then I was like, yeah, we need another van over here. I was like, why? Because we have no brakes, and I'm losing the steering. But we had to abandon the van, get another van to come in, get us out of the, and then that van got trashed. But it you know this was late '90s. You'd still have things pop off. I they were just upset because it was the Puerto Rican Day parade day, and they weren't being allowed to drive their like 100-car long caravans through lights. They were being stopped and made to turn and being broken up, and it was just pure stupidity. It was over and done in like 2 hours. So, but
Just a small riot with a burned out police van.
yeah, it was a small price to pay. It was the only time I ever saw the tank get brought to a scene, but they never deployed it. They left it on
Oh, jeez.
the
They
front.
brought in a tank, huh?
Well, or whatever. I'm not sure it's a real had a water cannon on it, so God only knows. But it was
Right.
armored. But like when you watch Fort Apache, the Bronx, all those like street scenes where like the crazy when they grab off the roof. I've been on that roof doing patrols. Where the in the beginning where the prostitute shoots the two cops. That was Intervale Avenue. I recognized the storefront. You just it was a movie, and I was the only one who had a copy of it, by the way, in my academy class. So when I got to when I got to the 4-2, I'm like, this looks familiar. This building looks familiar. That tape made the rounds. I didn't get it back until I got transferred. Like it's like the day before. It's like, hey, I need that back. I'm moving commands. I need my tape back. But it was a good movie, and most of it was like literally filmed on location. The outdoor shots at the precinct were filmed at the 4-2 because the 4-2 was built at the end of where two streets came together like that. So you could get that little V shot, and you could get shots on both sides. The actual 4-1 was in the middle of a block with houses almost butting up right next, or 4-story houses, tenements butting up to it. You couldn't get that scene, but you could get that great looking scene at the 4-2. But the inside scenes in the precinct was the 4-1, the old 4-1 precinct, which I've been in a couple of times, and they remodeled it to look like it looked like when it was built in like 1903 or something like that. They replaced all the wood because, aside from high school students, who does the most scratch eating? Probably cops to their own property. So there was like names scratched into banisters and the front desk, so that all had to get sanded out or replaced. So cops, if you ever run into, if you at least it probably has changed now, but when I came on, you never wanted to assign actual police officers to a new patrol car. That was saved for the sergeant or the lieutenant. Because if you gave it to actual cops, at some point somebody would get bored with their pocket knife and start whittling away at the steering wheel and the plastic covering around it, the rubberized covering. And then you'd have steering wheels that are bare metal, and then they get wrapped with electrical tape. Swear to God, I'd be making it up, but I'm not.
And,
Yes, Mr. Gunn, CSI Australia. I know I'm catching up. Oh my God.
catching up.
I'm going to do one more reach around because I got something neat in the mail. If I can find,
You
yep.
still got it in him.
So,
Uh-oh.
this
What's
is from
one?
my.
All right, hold on, Rob. I'm going to give you the solo, Rob.
Didn't be embiggened. Yes.
Okay, so in the 90s, I played LARPs and I ran LARP events, and I actually was general manager of a LARP chapter. And about 2 years ago, a group of the old players revived. It died out like 10 years ago, and then they recently revived it. So, but he they're allowed to use all the background stuff that I and others created for that original '90s LARP chapter. So he printed up a book with one of my background called The Rangers of Greyhorn and sent it to me, and I thought that was really nice. I wasn't expecting this, but yeah, the Rangers of Greyhorn were like a group that the players could get involved with. I didn't want to do knighthood because I wanted something different than knighthood. So I built something around rangers, and they're there to keep peace among the different races, the elves, the dwarves, the halflings, and stuff like that. And they have a little oath here, which I won't repeat, but you guys can get
The code of the watch.
Yep, the code of the watch. And they were divided into 3 groups: the Warriors of the Moon, the Guardians of the Tree, and the Runners of the Waters. And some of it was based on my Majestic Waterland, but there were a lot of tweaks to fit it with the shared world that we were using for Greyhorn here. The shared world that we were using for the LARP chapter. So that was kind of neat.
Oh, pretty cool. And I caught up on the chat. Holy crap. they have a bunch of chatterbots. Chatterbots.
We are igniting conversation. That means we have fulfilled our purpose and we can sleep easy tonight.
I don't know about that.
Maybe I'm being overly dramatic, but
maybe. I am getting I'm getting a shadow. I'm trying to figure out where I'm getting it from. Is it my light up above me? Maybe. I don't know.
Is it a virtual shadow or a real shadow?
I guess it's it's a realish shadow. I think the cat moved my light. I think that's what's going on. It's gonna take me hours, days to even care to put it back into place. I'll just be partially in shadow.
All right, I got one more to throw out there. So, Eric, you've been reporting, not just blogging, but reporting on all the initiatives that Wizards of the Coast were doing. So suppose Wizards of the Coast goes all out in this digital and it's something completely very different than traditional tabletop.
Right.
You see the hobby and industry surviving, even thriving in the absence of Wizards doing whatever they're doing?
Honestly, if you are a publisher who makes a significant, not saying majority, significant portion of your profits by selling through game stores, I think that you're going to be shit out of luck. But if you are a publisher who sells mostly directly to consumers or print on demand or via Kickstarter, I think it's going to be business as usual. WotC's retreat from tabletop gaming, and I'm not saying that they're giving up the whole, all the ground, but they're certainly giving up much of it, is going to cause another round of game store closures, in my opinion.
So the RPG section of these game stores are going to disappear.
Probably. You're going to find core books, not much more about that. And, if you're talking about a store like the Complete Strategist or something like that, their D&D section has been shrinking over the years anyway. So they have.
But how about their role-playing section?
No, role-playing section's been just as good, but it's changed. The balance has changed. Whereas before, for a while, it was all Pathfinder. Now you'll have your Pathfinder stuff next to the Pathfinder stuff, a large Palladium section. The D&D stuff is these 2 bookshelves in the middle of the store facing each other. The worst place to be, personally, if you ask me. But my point that I'm looking at now is that WotC, we're hearing that Ben Riggs is saying that he heard, and by the way, he's at D&D Historian. He did I believe Slaying the Dragon was his book. He's saying that he heard that the whole physical book publishing division at WotC was let go in the purges in December. Now, it doesn't mean that it wasn't dead weight and they're not going to replace people, but it certainly tells you that they don't want the institutional knowledge that they have there. That is, and I've seen that in the PD. There have been times when certain units have been transferred out and new people brought right in, and they don't want you to learn bad habits or whatever from the prior. They want you to start fresh. But when it comes to something like a publishing aspect, something that covers physical books, you would expect that to, I don't know, have some continuity to it. I don't know. That's what he's saying. I didn't hear any. I couldn't find anything online besides what Ben said on Facebook. We do have, I guess, WotC's distribution manager sometimes pops in here and watches the live stream. So I haven't heard about him losing his job. So, take Ben Riggs with a grain of salt, but he's in a position to theoretically know. But again, I haven't heard it independently.
So here's an interesting thing. They have organized play at the game stores. If the books go away and they try to move everybody on to the VTTs, what's going to happen to organized play? It's not going to be, without books to sell at the store isn't going to give up a valuable night of gaming to people who are playing stuff that they can't sell.
They'll just do it online, Rob.
Do it online. They're going to do it on their VTT.
And
then your character would be saved on the VTT, so you can take it from group to group, and nothing will. There's no fudging. There's no nothing. It is what it is. I mean,
I get that part, but that right now at Purple Fox in this town, the RPG stuff just literally only covers part of a bookcase full of material.
Right.
The rest is World of Warcraft, not World of Warcraft, Warhammer, Warhammer stuff, and board games, and Magic the Gathering. Now, he has to do that in order to thrive, and he is thriving.
Right.
But the role-playing stuff, if all that D&D stuff is not available anymore, man, it would just be a shelf or two, not even part of a bookshop case.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to agree with what WotC is doing to understand what WotC is doing. I don't agree with it. I think that you can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think you can keep your tabletop. And again, I know people get offended when I say it this way. Your tabletop RPG, your physical space RPG games, and you can also have your VTT. I do perceive that they heavily want to push people to the VTT, which again is not going to help stores out at all. But they want to push the VTT because then everybody is a paying customer. What?
So yes, that's true. I'm not disagreeing with that part, but it does think, like, remember what you said. It used to, when you're in Complete Strategist, at one time, the books were Pathfinder. Maybe this is going to be an opportunity for somebody with a little bit of capital behind them to pursue that hobby store channel and get that spot.
I mean, I believe that people, I would guess that Kobold Games is hoping to, be primed for that.
Right.
There are companies that I'm sure Goodman, I am sure is, but here's the thing: if you already have limited space for RPGs, maybe you'll do really well supporting one RPG. It isn't D&D. Maybe it's DCC, right? Maybe it's Shadow Dark, but who knows But once WotC's retreat from the physical space isn't going to be overnight. It's going, but we've seen the signs, and we know where they want to bring gaming, and they want to bring it to where everybody has to pay for their seat. And now, the OSR. Listen, we're all, a lot of us are creatives, so a lot of us are always buying material. The OSR buys material because we find enjoyment in other people's creations
And use.
But 5e players, we've seen articles going back 2 years now about the shortage of DMs, right? In my old groups, if there's a shortage of DMs, somebody else would pick up the mantle and DM. But most 5e players, apparently, maybe it's the rule system and the need for a lot of rule knowledge to run it effectively. But you don't see people in the OSR generally going, "Oh, there's a shortage of DMs." That doesn't seem to be an issue. In our regular group, everybody's a DM by nature. We just enjoy playing with each other,
Only we have the wealth of pre-made materials. Most of the systems we're talking about, they're pretty straightforward to pick up and learn.
Yeah. So, but 5e, I still remember. I'm not saying it's a bad system. I think it's a good system. But my one time playing 5e was at ChireCon in 2022, and I had like 6th level Snoopy monk. Yes, Snoopy. And I believe that my character sheet was 8 pages of about, I don't know, maybe a 12, 13 font, if I'm lucky, because it was done using one of those character builders. And I honestly, after reading the first page and trying to find a page with my abilities on it, that's it. I was like, I don't want to know anything else. I don't need to know anything else, because I'm going to take my whole session to learn what my character can do. That's literally too much.
Wow, that was some screwed up character builder if they print out at 8 pages for. I played monks. I played monks to a rather high level. My character sheet wasn't that big.
In 5e?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it was a lot of pages to read, and I was like, yeah. Tammy was in that game. Yep, Snoop kicked ass, but Lucy came in just in time. Just saying. And Johnny, everyone DMs in the OSR. Yes.
Yeah. The thing we have to remember, though, a lot of us are older, and we are the distillation of the 70s and 80s. The people that we had that were friends, they're already gone. Now the concentration gamers are. We are where the 5e, they still have the newbie people and all that stuff. And so most of us are GMs and players, and that were,
right.
They're still filtering down the hardcore game. Well, probably not so much. It's been out so long now, but you're probably going to find, it start distilling down too.
You know what? In the 80s and 90s, I was horrible at learning foreign languages in high school and college, but I could learn new rule sets pretty quickly over a weekend. At least learn well enough.
Well, speaking from personal experience, those two aptitudes do not occupy the same areas of the brain.
I've learned that. But now, as I get older, my ability to learn totally new rule sets, and 5e is essentially a totally new rule set, or I don't have. Now, I can play Shadow Dark. That is fine. Is it built off the 5e engine? Certainly, but the chassis is old school. It's like looking at a Model T frame with a new engine inside. It's going to run really well, and it's going to still look cool on the streets as you go down on it. So I think that's why Shadow Dark plays as well, and we were able to pick that up without going crazy over different rules and rule interpretations. It's another game that's, and I guess OSR, you could come down to, if you had to boil it down, the OSR It's about rulings, not rules. You don't get bogged down in a rule for everything. You aren't doing a simulation of World of Warcraft or EverQuest. You are hopefully making the DM think out of the box. And if you are, then everybody's succeeding.
Yeah, I lucked out in that process because what happened is I grew dissatisfied with AD&D because players wanted to do things, and I had to come up with stuff, what's kind. As Tim knows, what's sometimes a problem with me, but the really thing that got me was the lack of consistency. I knew I wasn't being inconsistent, and I could see in the players' eyes I could not be consistent. So I gravitated to Fantasy Hero, and then GURPS. But one thing, and Tim kind of helped me. You have kind of helped me with this over the years. Is that we always stress, okay, describe what you do first, and then we'll make the rolls. And although Tim often appended that with just wing it, Rob, just make something up. And
well, that's because you'd look into your creative books and start looking for exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
So that was the reasoning behind that.
But the systems I picked were the ones that allowed me to answer questions in a sensible way, like you would if you sat down and had time to sit down and think, come up with something your own. And GURPS was very good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Once I made my cheat sheets and not have to dive into the, 4 feet of books I got up there? Yeah, I'm not going to do the reach around, but I am going to do the camera turnaround. Everything from there to there is all GURPS 3rd edition. And that's when Tim said I would rifle through my books, that was the edition I was doing it with. And but I made cheat sheets, so then after that I stopped, kind of minimized doing that. I never said I really stopped it. But so when I finally figured out D&D from reading John Peterson's book and participating in the old D&D discussion forums and Knights and Knaves, you, Eric, the early discussions that we had on Google Plus, and once I figured out D&D, okay, fine. Now when I'm using the D&D rule set and somebody said, I want to do this, I can know how to say it. And I got to say, as much as I love GURPS, it's easier to come up with consistent rulings with D&D. I found it easier to come up with a consistent ruling with D&D than I did ever before, now that I understand the basic, the foundations of it. How guy got armor class, how they got hit point, how they got levels. And then I can take that in my mind and twist it for what I want it to be.
I've got an interesting experiment that'll be coming up too, is I'll be running a game for a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds. Going to use Shadow Dark as the system.
Okay. Nice.
So I'll be using that one. Now, from what I understand, about half of them are gamers and probably 5th edition players. So I'll have to have the, intro with them about, you're not just going to be, I look for traps and roll.
Right.
No, I'll tell them they'll be beaten with a ruler if they do that. But kind of teach them a different way to game, and introduce them to and what they, they don't know this is going to happen yet or anything. But by the end of it and everything, they're going to be writing their own adventures.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So we'll see. We'll see on the, success scale how that goes. So hopefully the kids really enjoy it and we can get them into it and everything. There's a bunch of group of kids that we have where I work, and they go through different domains that they work on. So they're working on teamwork next. That's the one. So I'm going to be teaching them teamwork through role playing.
Holy shit. Yeah. You set it up right. That could be a real lesson in teamwork.
So we'll see. Yeah. Or they'll try to, kill each other in the first session, which is not
And then you have real players.
What's that? Anti-team, chaotic teamwork? You know?
Well, it could be that they just like one side, half of them work together to kill the other half, or they all work together just to take one of them out. So, anytime I have a plan like that, they always think of an angle that it's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that.
Funny.
So
Well,
hopefully that'll be good.
For an episode where we don't have Greg and we don't have Joe, we did pretty well, and Rob did a couple of reach arounds.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned LARP once or twice.
That's probably, if you count the book, I think it's twice.
And GURPS, I mentioned GURPS.
Mentioned GURPS. Yeah. I mean, you filled the whole sheet. We got a whole card full tonight.
Yep.
Yeah, we may have to do
say everything was going well until the PC on PC violence over the +1 sword. Yes.
Uh-oh. It's a +1 sword for everybody. It multiplies. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It multiplies.
Don't worry. It takes care of itself.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That's a good one, though. Mr. Gunn. Mr. Gunn with the one-liners. You really...
So the worst case of PC on PC violence I had was a father came. I was running the Gold Star Crew game store campaign. So I have to kind of accept people at my table, whoever walks in the game store. It's part of what I have to do to use the space. And a father and his two sons came in. I handed him my sheet, the sheet of allowed character class, and at this time, I had all of them from the Majestic Waterland supplement, including the Claws of Callus. So they all picked Claws of Callus and chose to roll it up. And you don't start at first level. I had this random level generator chart. So they had third and fourth level characters. And I don't know. I kind of a little taken aback because they definitely started clicking up. And it was the dad and the two sons. And they were seriously plotting to kill the party, and
oh geez.
Well, that's what the Claws of Cal is. There's basically an assassin class, so I'm not surprised.
And now they were little bit. I wouldn't say fooled, but I play it cool because players want to do that. They can have at it. But what they didn't realize is the rest of the group been playing in my campaign for a long time. So they were kind of wise to the ways of the world. And they pegged them almost immediately. And it turned out they ganked them before they could gank. The three of them ganked the party. And it looked like, and they weren't aware of it. They set it up so they were in the dungeon, in the adventure, and they were passing notes among themselves. Okay, we're going to wait to hear. They're going to think they're going to have to drop on us. But this is what they told me later. They're thinking about it. We're going to hit them here and turn around, and they'll be totally caught flat-footed. And they were. And they got killed. And they were like, what? What are you doing? Are you allowing it? Hey, just as I gave you free reign, they had free reign to do what they want. They saw you coming. It was... They didn't tell me everything they were doing, but it was obvious to me that they knew what you were up to. And those are the consequences. I mean, I hope you had fun and learned a lesson. They didn't. They huffed out and they didn't return.
They didn't.
No.
Oh, that'll happen.
I think on that note.
Oh, Mr. Gunn, I'm sorry. My Harn stuff is all the way
now we got
over there.
second look
Or you
around.
can't even see it. It's on the couch because what I did is I built this new cubby hole. So my Harn stuff is going to be back better than ever.
See, Rob, you got to give like those warnings like they do in front of video games.
Right.
Well, I made everybody puke. I'm sorry about
that. Pretty much. Yes.
Okay, I'll do it like real slow, like
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
No.
Oh god, we gotta add Rob moves camera to the list. Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Uh,
actually, Mr. Gunn, the bullies were sent packing by the regular parties members.
That's the way it should be. And if you are playing in a public space using somebody in other businesses stuff, you're there to promote the business. That's when you get the wackadoos or the antisocials into your. It's the disadvantage of playing in a game store. I like supporting my local game store, but there are some disadvantages occasionally.
Yes, there is. Yeah. Yep.
All right, folks. Listen, huge thank you to Rob and Tim for joining us today. Otherwise, it would have just been me. You would have been like, what the fuck? And a very lively bunch of people in our chat. And
Yeah.
Scott, glad you could join
Absolutely.
us for the live stream. So, Scott, if you don't know, we do a live stream every Wednesday night, pretty much every Friday night. It alternates between the Random Party Generator and me and Glenn Hallstrom. And Saturday nights are Gamers Health with my wife Rach and a very active core community for that. So if you watched from the beginning, you got to hear Rob and I talking a little bit about Gamers Health. But it's we talk more about health and what's going on and generally find a topic. We're gonna try to find a topic for tomorrow that is topical. And we enjoy doing it. So, thank you all. Like, subscribe, the whole bullshit. You know the bullshit. I don't. So it's why I'm not like Joe the lawyer, who's like getting like, I got 25 subscribers just today.
Oh, I have one last thing to say to those of you listening who got in on my Kickstarter. I have not gone silent. I got the art in. Now I have to put all the final stuff together, and hopefully should be done with the candidate releases
That's
PDF
great, Rob.
this
Nice.
weekend.
Yeah, the art looks really
And
good.
because of everybody's generosity, I put some extra effort and learned how to use InDesign to build an actual index. I don't know how good of it's going to be, but it's this book, the How to Make a Fantasy Sandbox, and maybe the Island of Paid will have an actual functioning index.
Good schmud. Nobody's doubting on Rob. You're right.
No.
Yeah.
We're just waiting in anticipation. Kind of like Heinz ketchup, right? Anticipation. It's making me wait. A bad commercial memories. I'm sorry. This new generation doesn't have the memories of horrible commercial jingles that we used to have when we were young. You're probably lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't think of the last cool commercial jingle. It's been a while.
Double good, double mint gum.
Oh, there was a Burger King one, but now I can't remember the exact words. It was a really catchy song the guy sang about, how a Whopper's put together.
As opposed to the Big Mac, 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. See, that should be part of like a Dewey test. Repeat the Big Mac jingle. What?
Right.
I'm gonna begin it with 2 all beef patties. You can't remember. You got to be
I
trying.
only have one answer to that.
That's right.
Eric, where's the beef?
Oh my God, where's the beef?
Where's the beef?
Like, talk about getting into your career right before you pass the end of life.
Right.
I know.
Wow. No, champion, no plop, plop, fizz, fizz. And no, got to make the donuts. We had all this stuff. Bounty, the cleaner picker-upper. I mean, come on. Somebody got paid good money for that shit. It wasn't us.
Oh,
Guaranteed.
yeah.
Kool-Aid?
Yep.
There we go. Smash, bang, boom, bam. It was trying to be like a Batman cartoon or live action show with the bam. All right, folks. We're getting punch drunk. All right.
Yeah.
As usual, be safe, be well. God bless. Roll this dice, roll them well. Live stream tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Me and Rach. Hope to see you then. Mystic, hold your question for 2 weeks, man, because you ain't gonna get an answer. Too late.
Oh my gosh,
Too late.
Too late. Bye.
I've been cut off.